Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Thaddeus Miller household. Again, I'm Thaddeus Miller, the Director of Beverage at Palmetto Bluff. And this is my lovely wife, Krista.
Hello.
She's going to be very kindly playing along, which she doesn't normally think is fun when it comes to wine, because it's just grape juice after all. So I thought that today we would try something that maybe some of you have heard of, maybe some of you haven't. We are in northeastern Italy, near Verona. This is Valpolicella Ripasso. So if you've heard of Valpolicella, maybe you've heard of Amarone della Valpolicella, blend of 3 grapes, Corvina, Rondinella, Molinara. And this is Ripasso, which is a pretty new idea. If memory serves, I think the first representation of Ripasso was from Masi Canali, I think in like 1982, maybe. So in the world of wine, a very young idea. Valpolicella, really delicious, rich, hearty red wine. What they do sometimes is they will let those grapes raisinate, so you're reducing the water content and increasing sugar and intensifying things, and that's called Amarone della Valpolicella. It gets fairly expensive because it takes 4 times the amount of grapes to make 1 bottle of wine, but it gives you this really rich, full-bodied, kind of heavily alcoholic wine, but it can be expensive, and to get more bang for your buck, Ripasso is literally taking this year's Valpolicella and holding onto the must, all the skins and pips and everything from last year's Amarone, and repassing this year's Valpolicella over it. So a lot of people will call this poor man's Amarone, which I think is a fair description, but I thought that we would invite my wife to smell and taste with me and kind of see how 2 different people, how we perceive things. So okay. First, let's just look at the color of it. So if you want to hold your glass 45-degree angle away from yourself.
Okay. So
you can kind of look at the color. Mm-hmm. So like for me, it's pretty dark on the edge at the shoulders of the glass, the bottom. Okay. But then it's kind of garnet in the center. Mm-hmm. And then as it runs out towards the edge, you start to get a little bit more light ruby, almost like rose petally. Mm-hmm. Right? And then some people are concerned with legs. So if you give it a nice little swirly swirl, right? And you look at the legs run.
I don't see any legs.
Rotate them and you'll start to see it. You'll see them fall a little bit. Look at not at the ones in front of you, look at the back. Oh. It's easier to look further away from yourself sometimes.
Okay. Oh, right? Yeah. Uh-huh.
So they're fairly fat, they're fairly slow, moderate alcohol here, right? So I'm going to keep my mouth open a little bit too. Kind of start a little further away and then get into it a little bit. What's the first thing that you smell? What do you think?
Bark.
Bark. Okay.
Bark?
Like pine bark?
Yeah, like pine bark.
Something maybe
like
a little moisture.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I like that. So earthy aromas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't surprise me.
Tobacco? Maybe?
Tobacco, I think, is a great note.
I don't really know what that smells like totally, but
I think that's great. So both of those are earth things, which we should not be surprised by.
Like Robitussin a little bit too.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Okay.
So old world wine tends to show with earth and spice first and then fruit, whereas new world things tend to show with fruit first and then earth and spice. So I like both those notes.
What do you smell?
I mean, I definitely get the earth. I like like a pine bark mulchy thing going on. I get that. Or wet, kind of clumpy soil, like your favorite forest floor, your favorite, right?
Barnyard, forest floor. I just say those even if I don't smell them.
So I definitely do get a little funk on it, right? It's a little musty.
Okay.
But I definitely get coffee notes, like espresso crema.
Okay, I like
when somebody's building a really great shop, and I get a little bit of cocoa, almost like powdered chocolate pudding.
Okay.
And then to talk about the Robitussin thing, right? It's definitely for me like red raspberries and blackberries. Like there's definitely that thing going on, but there's definitely something medicinal. I don't know whether it's more menthol or eucalyptusy, but there's something in that softened tone that, to your point, I think, makes me think of cough medicine.
Yeah, menthol. Right. Okay. Can we drink it yet?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a taste. Sorry. Who's the boss now?
Some people call it a tasting. I call it a drinking.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. So, first things first, let's talk about how it feels.
Okay.
Let's talk about palate weight.
I feel like it's lighter. I expected it to be.
And there's the dog bell. So palate weight. So light, medium, full, and think about the milk,
Milk.
right? So is it skim milk or is it heavier than that?
I feel like it's like 2%.
So medium body.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think? Well, what do you know? Because this is me thinking. This is you
No,
knowing.
I
so.
think that it's a little heavier than you do.
Okay.
I think the thing is, think about the side of your tongue. Do you feel that tingle after you tasted it on the side of your tongue? Try it again.
No.
Try a little taste. And think about the side of your tongue after you taste it. You feel it tingle? And you feel yourself start to salivate?
Yeah, salivate.
That's acid.
Okay.
So acid, think about it the same way when we're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to brighten something up, you'll add lemon or lime juice to it. Kind of cuts through the richness. I think that has more weight and it's just brightened up. So I would give that at least a solid medium body, if not maybe a little heavier. But medium's good. You said 2%, which is medium.
Okay.
Good to go. Fairly acidic, I think, a little bit. Like the fact that there's a little tan there, you get a little bit of a grip, that drying sensation.
Okay.
Not a ton,
Yeah.
but about the time it was there, that acid kicked in, you started to kind of salivate again, right?
Right.
Do you taste the same things that you smelled? Do you get the medicinal thing? Does it cough medicine-y? Is there earthiness? Is there tobacco?
Not as much.
I definitely, let's talk about it. I definitely get like red raspberries and blackberries. And there's a little bit of like, almost like black cherry.
Okay.
Like black cherry and like Special K black cherry soda kind of a way. Which would lead you into more of that medicinal thing too, I think, for me, right? Do you get a little hint of that? It's more, I think it's more menthol, maybe even leaning more towards mint for me, like spearmint as opposed to the menthol.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the earthiness. On the finish, it kind of, as it finishes, it's a fairly long finish. It's taking a while to get out of your mouth.
Yeah.
As it
And like
finishes.
the roof of my mouth?
Yeah. For me, I start to get those chocolate tones again. Like Jell-O pudding pops from your childhood. I know that you love them, but it finishes with that kind of chocolatey like coating on the back of your tongue. Not super sweet, just like cocoa powdery.
Okay.
A little bit?
Yeah. Cocoa powder.
Okay.
I don't know if I taste the pudding pop.
Pudding pops, right?
But yeah, cocoa powder.
All right.
Like almost when you taste like baking chocolate accidentally. Like it's like that, like weird.
That's a great, right? Because a lot of times when we say cocoa or chocolate, people assume sweetened chocolate, right? And sometimes it's just about the essence of the cocoa powder.
Like a dark chocolate or like that baking chocolate taste.
I love it. Now, do you like this one?
Well, I'm not a huge red drinker.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, I'd probably have like one glass, like with dinner or something,
All right.
but not like sit around drink it.
That's good. So the question is now, I always like to talk about what I would eat with the wine. So if it was one glass with dinner, what kind of dinner do you think it would make sense with?
I don't know. You're putting me on the spot.
And that's the fun of it.
I don't know. Like a pork? I don't know. I'm a vegetarian. I don't know.
Okay. I think pork works. I think that because this has a little bit of grip, that little tannic, because it's got some earthy notes, and because it's got that cocoa and that kind of stuff, and there's acidity there, I think it can hold up to richer, fattier things.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily care where that fat comes from. Right?
Okay.
So
what would you say?
Could it be pork or lamb? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because of the earthiness, thinking about vegetarian or vegan things, I think if you did some basic pasta and you just did 3 or 4 different wild mushrooms sauteed with butter and olive oil and dressed the pasta with that, maybe with some fresh garlic, a little bit of like sun-dried tomato, I think this makes sense with that. Right? The fat and the meatiness of the mushrooms and the earthiness, I think, makes sense. But there's no right or wrong answers. There's only your answers, right?
Okay.
Whatever you think is good is good.
So I like when we play the game of how much alcohol content is it and how much would it cost. So
What do you think the alcohol content is?
I have no idea.
So,
you said it was more alcohol content.
Baseline
right?
alcohol content, rule of thumb. So generally whites are less alcoholic than reds, and generally old world wines tend to be lower in alcohol than new world wines. I would say the average for most reds is probably, I would say at least 13%, if not 13.5.
Okay.
Can there be stuff that's 11 or 12%? Sure, but I think a good jumping off point is probably 12.5 or 13%.
So what is this?
What do you think it is?
I don't know, like 16?
So the best way to tell is take a little sip,
Uh-huh.
and you can swallow it, but then it's going to look a little silly, but tilt your head back and open up your mouth and stick your tongue out. And you can, I know it sounds weird, but you can feel it. Now,
What?
you're going to feel it as it dissipates, right?
Okay.
As it evaporates. And think about where you feel alcohol, right?
Okay.
Feel alcohol in your ears, in your cheeks, in your neck. You can start to feel a little warm in your chest. Those are all indicators. Now, I do think there's a little warm here. There's a little body. I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet, but I don't think it's terribly high. But I would say Amarone tends to be higher because you've raisined things. It can oftentimes be between 14 and 15%.
Okay. So
Right.
what do you think it's at?
I would put this at 14-ish,
Okay.
and it is 14.
There you go.
So there you go, which is good. And then, what do you think price point wise? Now
You
we've
said
talked-
it's more expensive.
Well, Amarone is, and then this is just, this really doesn't cost that much more in that you're holding on to something that you've already used once. This is a valued added thing. So this doesn't really cost that much more to make than just the Valpolicella.
Okay. So this is how much we would pay like at a wine store.
But I want
not
retail. Yeah.
Retail.
Yep.
Like 35, I don't know.
I think this was 22.
Retail cost.
Retail cost $22.
Okay.
I don't feel bad about that. Like, if you're going to open a nice bottle of wine, if you're going to cook a nice meal, and just enjoy some great company, maybe rock out to, some great music, maybe a little Motown action while you're cooking, I don't feel bad about $22 for a bottle of wine. So, closing thoughts, would you have this again?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be my first choice though. But
I knew you'd say that.
yeah, yeah. So would you drink it again? What would?
I would. I'll say this. I actually opened this last night.
Okay.
Because this is a 2017, this is this year's release, and these can be a little tight. I opened it last night, didn't decant it, just let it sit for almost 24 hours, and it is so much more integrated with some time. Sometimes if you think about it, I will open stuff up a day in advance because I know I want to really enjoy it when I get into it. So I'm happy to open something up on a Friday night that I know I'm not going to get to till Saturday. And this definitely, if you'd had it last night, would have felt like a $16 bottle of wine or a $14 bottle of wine. And I think, to your point, with a day to open up and relax and stretch out, I would have no trouble saying, I think that could be a $30 or $35 bottle of wine. So there you go.
Okay.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next time. Bye-bye.